She's gonna throw you in with those in your signature. Oh, no, yes. Can you give me a few moments, please? Oh, thank you very much. So I'm gonna be
All right. And then here, when you get a chance, could you bring their client out? Thank you.
You're just waiting for him, sure? Yeah. So, judges. Yeah. So that'll be the sign. I would still mention it in this letter. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you don't. Right, that's it, like, you don't know that. Okay, no, it says I don't know. From like a couple weeks ago. I feel we should still have a false report against you. You don't have a. It's weird when you're doing this, sometimes on your remote electronic. Oh, I like to have it on there. Those are both weird. But it's nice to be able, like, from my house, I can Email a document.
Even in the morning.
Exactly. I grab it all. Out of the way.
But I think that's. Yeah, it's one of the.
We thought the same thing. Yeah.
So they need to. And it's open an office.
Yeah.
And then in between. For that. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I don't listen to it. Yeah, we can figure it out.
I know when it starts and then and it's like
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And do we have all the jurors yet? All right, come forward. Travis, are you gonna do this, please?
Stanley, but I guess I can.
All right. He'll be back. He's not going off to war. All right, court is calling 2019 CR 13976, State of Texas versus King Alvarado. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state defense? And are you King Alvarado? Counsel, have you received all the discovery that you reviewed with your client? Court will find that the state is in compliance with discovery.
That's fine.
Sure. Well, just 1 second. You want to raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand and state your name for the record. Travis. Showing you what's entitled trial court, sir, I'm sorry, showing you what's entitled true bill of indictment. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? Counsel, do you waive the reading of the indictment? State, are you proceeding on the indictment as presented?
The state will proceed on the lesser included, reckless.
Any objection?
No objection.
Showing you what's entitled court admonishments. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you sign it in all the appropriate places? Did you understand you're charged with injury to a child reckless? That's a state jail felony. The range of punishment is anywhere from 180 days up to 2 years in the state jail facility and up to $10,000 fine. Did you understand? If you have a plea bargain agreement with the state, the court does not have to follow your plea. If for any reason the court does not follow your plea and gives you more than you bargained for, the fact that you entered a plea will not be used against you and you will be allowed to withdraw your plea. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand you have a right to jury trial, a right for you or your attorney to cross-examine and confront any witnesses the state will call, and the right to remain silent? Did you understand by entering this plea, you were giving up those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you intend to give up those rights and enter into a plea in this case? Counsel, has your client been able to provide you with any defenses? Do you believe he has a rational as well as a factual understanding of the charges against him? Do you believe he's currently competent and was legally sane at the time of the offense? Mr. King, has anyone threatened you, coerced you, or placed you in fear to get you to enter this plea?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything other than the plea? Are you satisfied with the way you've been represented?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you a U.S. citizen? Court will find that defendant has knowingly and voluntarily waived his right to jury trial, showing you the plea bargain page. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it? According to the plea, the state is proceeding on the lesser included offense of injury to a child reckless. They're asking that your punishment be assessed at 2 years in the state jail facility. There are no applications. This will run concurrent with your federal cause number 218CR01381-001. There's an affirmative finding of family violence. Did you understand with an affirmative finding of family violence, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you understand with an affirmative finding of family violence, you're not allowed to be designated as primary custodial parent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you understand that to be the entirety of your plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
State,
Yes.
defense, showing you the waiver of appeal paragraph. Did you review that paragraph with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you sign it in both places?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you understand by signing that you're waiving your right to appeal? The only items that can be appealed are written pretrial motions that have been filed, heard, and ruled upon by the court. Did you understand? Counsel, have there been any such motions? Then to the lesser included offense, injury to a child reckless, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest? State any evidence?
No objection and.
And states exhibit 2. Yes.
All right. Showing you what's entitled waiver and consent to stipulation of testimony and stipulations. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you sign it in all the appropriate places?
Yes, Your Honor.
Again, did you understand you have a right to a jury trial, a right for you or your attorney to cross-examine and confront any witnesses the state would call, in the right to remain silent? Did you understand that today the state will be presenting evidence in the form of witnesses' statements and police reports? But most importantly, there will be no live testimony. Did you understand? Court will find that defendant has knowingly and voluntarily waived and consented to stipulation of testimony and stipulations. Court will accept into evidence states exhibits 1 and attachments and review the same. All right, after reviewing states exhibits 1 and attachments, the court will find there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and the court will find you guilty. Are you proceeding with sentencing? Anything you wish to say on behalf of your client?
No.
All right, the court will sentence you to 2 years in the state jail facility. This will run concurrent with 218 CR 01-38100. There's an affirmative finding of family violence. The court will give you credit for any time served. And you said that there was federal time and you spoke with the state about the amount of time. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, so the time credited would be. It should be satisfied, however, because.
No, that is the process. State, are you in agreement that its judgment is satisfied?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, the court will note that the judgment is satisfied. Showing you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it? Because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because this is a felony conviction, because this is an affirmative finding of family violence, you're not also not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. Do you understand? All right, we can go off the record. I read the police report. I read the doctor's findings, with the doctor saying that, yes, this injury could have been caused recklessly. And I see why the state reduced it from its original charge to reckless. But this is not your first child. So you know that children, yes, they're resilient, but they're also fragile. And you got to be careful how you hold them. You understand? All right, good luck to you. Oh, and thank you so much for dressing appropriately for court. Even knowing you were going in, you still dressed appropriately. I appreciate that. All right. Yes.
Here, I know it's.
Oh, if you'll just talk to the deputy, and the deputy will tell you where they can do that. Yes.
Is it sentencing? Or, oh, just say something.
Yeah. Normally it's supposed to be at 9, you can go up there, and then now.
It might not be our turn.
Okay, no worries.
Whenever you bring them.
Was that?
Just give me a minute, 5 minutes. Yeah, no, it's fine.
There's paperwork. Do you need a motion?
So the other thing.
Who? Yeah, he's in the back. He's not ready yet. Okay,
Okay, then we have 2.
no problem. And do you know, were all the jurors here?
Yes.
All right.
And she was. She got found.
Oh, so does anybody have any objection to me going to grab the jurors to come out?
Well, Judge, we did have some motions and money we needed to put on the record.
All right, let's do that. Court is calling 2023 CR 2674, State of Texas versus Todd Dotson. Could I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Zach Dunn for the state.
Defense.
Elizabeth Russell for Todd Dotson.
And are you Mr. Dotson
Yes, Your Honor.
and co-counsel?
Oh, Haley Hughes for the defense.
All right, my understand. Oh, you may be seated. All right, you all can be seated. And throughout the trial, if you remain seated for your objections, I don't take that as a sign of disrespect, but it's easier for the court reporter to hear. All right, so defense, you have motions in limine?
Yes, Judge. As we discussed yesterday, we have one motion in limine that's been filed and served on the state. And then we had an oral motion in limine as well. On the motion in limine number 1 that was served on the state and filed, we request that no extraneous offenses or any evidence of wrong or bad acts be introduced without first approaching the bench. Specifically, there's allegations that Mr. Dotson has contacted the complaining witness while in custody by both phone calls and letters, and the state had actually asked for a continuance to give us this evidence, specifically the jail calls several months ago. We never got this.
All right, and my understanding from conversations yesterday off the record states you're not bringing any of that into evidence. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, next.
And then we had an oral motion in limine that the complaining witness not be referred to as a victim until it's been adjudicated. So
I'm sorry, can you slow down? Repeat one more time, please.
we had an oral motion in limine that the complaining witness not be referred to as a victim until it's been adjudicated as so.
All right, and that's standard here in the 187 District Court, and off the record yesterday, the state said they would abide by that. All right, so if there's any other extraneous approach first.
Yes, Your Honor. Just as a,
Just 1 second, I'm sorry. And if the state will make sure they'll make all of their witnesses aware of the motion in limine.
we have spoken with the complainant and the eyewitness this morning, and we made it unequivocally clear on multiple occasions to not talk about those things that happened after the latter date of offense, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
And
I know it's hard.
It is a bad habit, Your Honor, and
No. When I was in other courts, it was always stand. But then when I was in Judge Knowles' court as an attorney, and they had all of the technology before they had it on the criminal side, he ordered that everybody sit. And if you continued to stand, he would start fining people. So, of course, I won't do that here.
thank you, Judge. I will rack up a bill. Your Honor, just as a small bit of information for the court's knowledge and context, we have we have basically, of course, 2 counts and 2 dates of offense. We have a 911 phone call wherein the complainant mentions that the defendant is on parole. So we're currently working on basically redacting that specific section.
Okay.
And we just want the court, so we plan on putting the custodian on, basically laying an authentication predicate, but we won't publish until we have that redacted copy wherein a mention of parole was not on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, Judge.
All right. Is there anything else?
And then, Your Honor, the state also has a motion to fingerprint for the court's knowledge as well. I can.
All right. As soon as we take a break, we will hear that. And then my understanding from No, that's fine. My understanding from the other prosecutor in this court that there's a shortage of fingerprint examiners. So make sure you call them. And when we have a break, we can do the fingerprinting and counsel. That's just to move things along quickly. But if you have an objection to that, the court will, of course, hear those objections. All right.
Thank you,
And
Judge.
I believe the jury is going to come in. All right, we're ready.
All right, for the juror.
Oh, please be seated. We stand for you. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, and I see that someone has brought a notepad, perhaps to take notes. This is what I tell jurors. I sort of discourage from doing that because, one, I want to make sure that you are 100% focused on witnesses and not on writing. And number 2, whatever notes you take, you're not going to be allowed to have those with you during deliberations because the certified record is from the court reporter. So sometimes people may end up taking notes just in anticipation. And then somebody on the back may say, well, was somebody wearing a green sweater or red sweater? And then, a person may pull out their notes, say, well, I wrote down they had a green sweater. So I discourage people from taking notes for that reason, because if there's an issue about whether somebody, hypothetically, if somebody is wearing a green or red sweater, the person to tell us whether they were wearing a green or red sweater will be the court reporter. All right. So you all had an oath downstairs, but I'm going to give you the oath for this specific case. So if you all could raise your right hand for me, please. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm in the case of the state of Texas versus Mr. Dotson, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. If at any time you all have trouble hearing, just let me know. Just, you can tap on your ear, you can raise your hand and say, I can't hear. And we'll make sure that everybody speaks up, all right? State,
Yes, Your
you
Honor.
may proceed.
Your Honor, would you like the state to read the indictment?
Yes.
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized, impaneled, and sworn as such at the March term 2023 of the 187th Judicial District Court of said county and said court at said term, do present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and interior to the presentment of this indictment, count one. On or about the 9th day of January, 2023, Todd J.L. Dotson, herein referred to as defendant, did intentionally, knowingly, and recklessly cause bodily injury to Sabrina Denise Olivares, a member of the defendant's family, household, or person with whom the defendant has or had a dating relationship, herein referred to as complainant, by striking the complainant with the hand of the defendant. And before the commission of the offense alleged above, on the 16th day of August 2010, in cause number 2010 CR 6597W in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant was convicted of the offense of assault family household, impeding the breath or circulation, an offense against a member of the defendant's family household or a person with whom the defendant has or had a dating relationship. Count two. And on or about the 17th day of January 2023, the defendant did then and there intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to Sabrina Denise Olivares, a member of the defendant's family, household, or person with whom the defendant has or had a dating relationship, by striking the complainant with the hand of the defendant and grabbing the complainant with the hand of the defendant. And before the commission of the offense alleged above, on the 16th day of August 2010, in cause number 2010 CR 6597W in Bexar County, Texas, the defendant was convicted of the offense of assault family household, impeding the breath or circulation, an offense against a member of the defendant's family, household, or a person with whom the defendant has or had a dating relationship, against the peace and dignity of the state.
All right. To that, how do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
All right, you may be seated. And ladies and gentlemen, I know you probably see in other courts where attorneys object and they stand, but I've told both parties to remain seated when they object so that it's easier for the court reporter to hear and you to hear. All right. So it's no sign of disrespect to the court. All right, state, are you prepared with opening statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Members of the jury, you just heard me read the indictment, and I want to really break this down. The state intends to put on evidence to show and demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that on January 9th, an assault took place, and on January 17th, an assault took place. So the state intends to call an officer from the first date, and of course, the complainant, who's the same in both, but focusing on this January 9th, the state intends to put on evidence that will show that given a disagreement in the household, tempers were heating up, and the defendant spit in the face of the complainant and then slapped her across the face. Again, this is January 17th, okay? I apologize. January 9th. And then January 17th, the state again will call the complainant. We don't believe we'll have an officer from that date, but if we do, we'll put them on. But we will have the complainant, and the complainant will basically testify that the defendant came over to where she was living, and there was an altercation that took place after an argument, essentially hit her in her lower area and also punched her in the face. So again, I know I'm repeating myself, but just to be incredibly clear, the state is going to put on evidence that talk about two separate events, January 7th, January 9th, and January 17th. We'll have the complainant, the same complainant, talk about both. There was an eyewitness to the former. There was an individual that was there for the latter. She didn't see it, but she was in the next room. So out of totally proving our elements, giving the context, laying as much evidence as we can for both instances, the state is going to ask that you find the defendant guilty of both of these assaults against a member of his household or with whom he had a dating relationship.
Defense?
Yesterday, when we were talking on voir dire about how you determine a credibility of a witness, one of the big things we talked about was consistency. And so as we listen to the evidence today, I want you to look at the consistency of the statements, both of the complaining witness and of the other individual that were there on both incidents. And the consistency that they tell the officers, the consistency of their own statements, and then the consistency of when they testified today. Because that's how we're going to determine the credibility of the story, right? That's how we're going to determine if it is what they say it is. And we believe that the evidence will show that not only are those consistent statements, not only is there not consistent statements, but that the assaults didn't happen the way that the complaining witness is going to try and tell you that they did. And based on that evidence, we'll ask you to find Todd Dotson not guilty at the end of all the evidence presented. Thank you.
All right, state, call your first witness.
Yes, sir. The state is going to call a 911 custodian of record, Miss Robinson. And if I may approach the lodge left.
Yes. Oh, you may have a seat here. All right, if you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. If you'll make sure you keep your voice up so the court reporter can hear and the jurors can hear. If you'll state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Lasanya, Lasоnya, Robinson, Robinson.
All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. Miss Robinson, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great, thank you. Now, you stated that you stated your name for the record, and we appreciate that. What do you do for a living?
I am a paralegal / custodian of records for SAPD Communications.
And SAPD, of course, I know it's a well-known acronym, but can you please tell the members of the jury where that is?
San Antonio Police Department.
Now, how long have you been a custodian of record?
Almost 3 years.
And in broad strokes, what does your job entail?
Upon request, we'll pull the 911 audio. We'll also listen to it and make sure that it hadn't been altered in any way, as well as review or generate the IDRs that were created at the time of the call.
And you mentioned the 911 calls. You mentioned these things called IDRs. Can you please explain what those are?
Those are incident detail reports that are generated once that 911 call comes in.
And ma'am, do you have anything to do with the creation of the record itself?
No,
Do you take the calls yourself?
no.
So plainly speaking, you keep the records.
Yes, sir.
Now, regarding this incident, did you keep the records in the matter in hand?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, do you recognize these two things that I'm showing you?
Yes.
May the record please reflect that I'm showing the witness what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1 and State's Exhibit 2. Now, ma'am, regarding both of these, what are they?
They are the 911 audios. One is from the 9th and the other one is from January the 17th and January the 9th.
It's nice to know someone can get the dates right. Now, how do you know that those are 911 phone calls from that day?
I listened to them.
You listened to them, and now
Mhm.
have they been altered or amended in any way?
No.
Do they accurately reflect the 911 phone calls that were made respectively on the 9th and the 17th?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would offer, again, what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1 and 2 into evidence.
The judge, we would object under both the confrontation clause and hearsay.
All right, that objection will be overruled. State's exhibits number 1 and 2 are admitted into evidence with what was previously discussed.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions for this witness, Your
All
Honor.
right, defense.
Ms. Robinson. So when you reviewed the 911 calls for the 17th, when did you do that?
I did it on yesterday. Once I got the notice to come to appear for court, I pulled those 2 calls and listened to them.
And so on the 17th, there's actually 3 calls. Isn't that accurate?
Yes.
And there's only 1 call that has been added to the desk that you reviewed today.
Yes.
Okay, no further questions, Judge.
All right. Is this witness excused?
For the state, Your Honor, yes.
Subject to recall, Judge.
All right. Just make sure you're available if anyone wishes to recall you as a witness.
Okay.
All right, thank you. You may step down. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state will call Officer Franco. Your Honor, may I first just.
Yes. All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that the court reporter and the members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Paul, Paul, Franco, Franco.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, how are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Now, you've stated who you are and you've spelled your name. Can you state where it is that you're an officer?
I'm an officer in the city of San Antonio.
And where exactly in the city of San Antonio? What division are you in?
I'm on East Patrol.
And how long have you been an officer for?
A little over 3 years.
What do you have to do to become an officer?
You have to have extensive training at the San Antonio Police Academy.
And can you walk us through maybe a little bit of what that training entails in broad strokes?
It's just learning about law, traffic law, learning how to de-escalate, try not to, violate anybody's rights, basically keep a good eye in the general public.
And in broad strokes, once you've finished with the academy and training, in broad strokes, what does your job entail on a day-to-day basis?
My job is to protect the public.
And officer, regarding domestic violence-based calls or calls within that sphere of influence, How frequently do you respond to those types of disturbances or emergencies?
Sadly, quite often.
If you had to put a best guess or number on it, what would you say?
At least 8 times a week.
Now, officer, do you know why we're here today?
Yes.
Do you remember the date and time that you were dispatched?
January 9th, around 11 p.m.
And regarding an exact time, do you happen to know the exact time?
Around 11 p.m., maybe midnight.
Would it refresh your memory to see a report from that date?
Yes, it would.
And Judge, we'd object to this. This is not, well, first, the predicate has been established, and this is not Officer Franco's report.
All right, if you all can remain seated. All right, that objection will be overruled.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record please reflect that I'm handing the officer what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 3. Now, officer, this is a police report from that day. Please feel free to use it to refresh your memory, but please do not read directly from it. Under Texas law, we cannot bring the police report into evidence, so the jury's not going to see it. So you can only use
We're
it
gonna
to,
object to sidebar at this point.
That will be sustained.
please only use this to refresh your memory.
Yes, sir.
And Judge, before he refreshes his memory, we'd like to take him on a brief voir dire as to his memory of this report.
All right, you may take the officer on board here.
Now, officer, you didn't write the report that's in front of you, did you?
I haven't seen the reports in front of me yet, ma'am.
You want to take a moment and look through it?
Please. Yes, ma'am, my report is in here.
You wrote the report that's in front of you. Was it written by Officer Josh?
The narrative of my report's in here.
Okay, that's not what I'm asking you, sir. The report that's in front of you, was it written by you?
My report is in this packet that I received, ma'am.
May I approach the witness?
All right, the voir dire. He's answered the questions.
I
State,
don't know what he has in front of him because I don't have a report that's been written by him. So we might have a grading
All right.
issue here.
do you have the report for her
Yes,
to
Your Honor,
view?
This is in e-discovery and it's. Oh, yeah, we just have one attached third file.
So we would request that you only give him his reports.
All right, you may proceed with your question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, we have an objection. He has reports up there that he has not written. And then he has reports that he has. We request that he only has the reports that he has written, that he has personal knowledge of to refresh his memory.
All right, that objection will be overruled. You can ask your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, what date and time did you arrive on scene?
January 9th, approximately 2300, which is 11 p.m.
Thank you, officer. And where were you dispatched to?
I'm sorry, I don't recall the exact address, and there are many addresses on this report.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You can ask your next question.
Officer, was the address,
Objection leading.
Overruled.
was the address you reported to in Bear County, Texas?
Yes, it was.
Now, officer, were you given any information before you arrived on scene?
What I vaguely remember from the information I was given was that my victim was assaulted by her boyfriend. And that's it. I wasn't given any suspect information or any clothing description.
Officer, when you arrived on scene, who did you make contact with?
When I was making my way to the location, I came across a man wearing dark clothing in the area.
Objection non-responsive.
Overruled.
I continue.
You may continue, officer.
I made contact with the unknown male. I asked if he was the suspect that we're called for, which would be Todd. Right. He says no. I went to get out of my vehicle, and as soon as I came around my vehicle, he begins to run. He begins to leap across fences, in which I lose him. I call for extra support, and then I made my way to the incident location. Right there, I found my victim and one of her friends.
Objection, that's a violation of the motion in limine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are to determine whether someone is a victim or not. Does everyone understand? And officer, you are to address the person as the complainant or either the person by name. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may continue.
Just a moment of the court's time, Your Honor. Officer, when you said you made contact with the male individual, did they communicate with you in any way or speak to you?
Yes, when I made contact with him, I asked if he was Todd. That's when he told me no.
And do you is that individual in the courtroom today?
Yes,
Can you, for the court's purposes, point to that individual by an article of clothing they're wearing?
he's a gentleman over there wearing the blue coat and khaki pants.
Thank you, officer. Now, you arrived on scene and you made contact with the complainant and who else?
And I believe is one of her friends.
And with respect to the complainant, what was her body language or demeanor?
She was shooken up. She was upset.
How could you tell that she was shaken up or upset?
When she was explaining what's going on, she was quite frantic. Was just giving me a lot of information really quick. Wanted to tell me a bunch of things at the same time. Had to calm her down and I had to explain to her that I need to be given information from the beginning to end. That way I get a complete picture and better understand what's going on.
Do you have any knowledge as to how far it took from the incident, the alleged incident, to when you arrived?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Do you have any knowledge or indication of how much time passed between the alleged incident and when you arrived on scene?
No, I'm not too sure about that.
What was the demeanor or body language of, not the complainant, but the other individual on scene?
She was just mostly there to, I guess, support the complainant. Comfort her, I guess, better explanation.
Just a moment of the court's time, Your Honor.
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
No, Your Honor, may the record please reflect that I'm showing the officer what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 4, 5, 6, and 7. Officer, if you will take a hold of these and look through them, do you recognize these photographs?
Yes,
And what are they photographs of?
these are photographs of injuries from the complainant that she had sustained that night.
Do they appear altered or amended from your recollection of her that night?
No, they don't.
Your Honor, the state would offer, again, what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 4, 5, 6, and 7 into evidence.
And Judge, we object as the authentication. This officer did not take these photos.
All right. Defense's objection will be overruled. State's exhibits 4, 5, 6, and 7 are admitted.
Your Honor, may we please publish to the jury?
Yes.
Officer, what did the complainant tell you happened that night?
Objection, hearsay, violation of the confrontation clause under the United States Constitution in the Texas.
That'll be sustained.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Officer Franco. When you went through your extensive training with the San Antonio Police Department, part of that was to write a full and accurate report. Isn't that correct?
That's a part of it, yes, ma'am.
And you would agree with me that the report that you wrote close to the time of the offense is probably more accurate than anything that you're saying today.
Yes, ma'am.
Because your memory was fresher then than it is now.
Correct.
And so is there anything, because you've looked at your report, is there anything that you feel like you need to add to your report that wasn't included?
Not at this time, ma'am.
Okay, so, in your report, you don't actually say that you talked to my client, on the first incident date, do you? January 9th.
It doesn't specifically say that I contacted him.
So it does not say that you had contact with my client, does it?
It says I stopped to make contact, ma'am.
But it doesn't say that you had contact with him and he said anything, does it?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Oh, I stopped my vehicle and I made contact with him.
Does your report say that you had a conversation with my client and he responded to you?
It does not say I had a conversation with him, ma'am.
But your testimony today, almost 10 months after the incident, is that you had a conversation with him.
Almost 9 months, yes, ma'am.
And so you also testified that you don't remember what address you responded to.
I don't recall, ma'am,
But how then are you able to tell us if it's in Bear County if you have no idea where you responded to?
because I work on the east side of San Antonio in Bexar County, ma'am.
But it is accurate that there's some parts of San Antonio that overlap in multiple counties. Is that correct? I'm sorry, there's a part of Bear County that overlaps with Atascosa,
Not where I work.
not where you work. But so are you ever called out of the area in which you work?
On occasion.
Okay. And so. You remember the complaining witness initially telling you that she yanked the chain around my client's neck before he slapped her?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you remember being told that the complainant was the initial aggressor?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
We're not asking for any type of statement where there's no out of court statement that's being elicited from the witness.
All right. Objection is sustained.
When the complaining witness made the 911 call, she was from her room. Is that accurate?
Objection, speculation.
Do you know?
She said it was when she made it to her room, she made the 911 phone call.
And Todd Dotson was not inside of her room with her when she made that 911 call. Is that accurate?
He was outside the room.
Along with her 6 kids, correct?
I'm not too sure about that.
Do you remember her telling you that she had 6 kids present in the house that day?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Were any children present when you arrived at the location?
When I contacted Miss Sabrina, we were outside her house. I didn't go inside the house.
And so do you remember if there were any children present?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled. You can answer if you know the answer.
I recall Bridget, which is the female with Sabrina, saying that she saw the assault happen with.
Objection, non-responsive.
Well, she-
All right, that'll be sustained.
Sir, were there any children present when you arrived?
when I arrived, there were no children outside of the house.
And did you see any children there that day?
I did not see any children. I do not recall seeing any children outside of the house.
Sir, you're not quite answering my question. I understand you did not go inside her house. Did you see any children before you left that day?
I don't recall, ma'am.
Did you have an opportunity to review your body worn camera before you testified today for this jury?
Very briefly, ma'am. I was really occupied last night.
You were really occupied last night.
I was very occupied last night, ma'am.
Okay. Would it help if you reviewed the fourth portion of your body worn camera video to be able to correctly and accurately tell this jury whether or not there were children present?
It would help, ma'am.
Judge, we're gonna need about a minute and a half. I can put the volume down. I have a
Have a seat, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to look at anything or view anything. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. We're going to take a brief recess and then I will bring you back. I anticipate bringing you back no later than 10:45. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right, if you all have a body cam for him to see, the entire body cam, then play it for him, please. That's okay. Oh, and could everyone please make sure your phones are on silent? And then I think somebody said, what time, Vashon, at 1 or something, there's supposed to be some sort of test?
1:20.
1:20.
Yeah, so everyone's phones are gonna go off.
Okay, if there's a zombie apocalypse or where the Be Quiet movie were out, and then they do that, all of a sudden you're like, it reminds me of the movies Tremors. Have you ever seen Tremors?
Is that Kevin Bacon?
Yes. Okay.
I love that movie.
Yes, that movie deserved an Oscar. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, and you know what? That's a movie. The first one, you could watch it over and over. My mom and I love Tremors. And we just discovered it by accident.
Is Kevin Bacon in any of the other ones or just the first one?
He is in the first one, and I think there's a cameo of him sort of in the second one, and Fred Ward is in the second one.
Okay, yeah.
Rest in peace, Fred Ward. I thought he was so hilarious.
Did you like the invocation of the B movie yesterday?
I love the B movie.
Me too. Me too.
We're ready.
All right, for the jury.
All right, everyone, please be seated. And defense, you were on cross, you may continue.
Um, Now, officer, you never talked to my client, did you?
Yes, I spoke to him in the beginning of the call, like I mentioned earlier.
And then, but later on, you never talked to my client about the incident?
I haven't seen your client after that.
So no, you never talked to my client?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but you had already decided that he was guilty of the offense, hadn't you?
After investigation and contacting follow-up units, oh, yes, ma'am.
But you decided without ever talking to Mr. Dotson, isn't that accurate?
I never said that, ma'am.
And so, in fact, what you even said was you knew the type of person that Mr. Dotson was.
I never said that, ma'am.
You never said that?
No, ma'am.
Sir, are you sure you never said that?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
That will be overruled.
Can you explain your question, ma'am?
You never said that you know the type of person that Mr. Dotson was.
No, I don't recall ever saying that, ma'am.
You made or you have a body worn camera from this incident, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you review that body worn camera prior to today?
Like I said earlier, ma'am, briefly.
Be it heard to witness.
Yes.
And this is your body worn camera, isn't it?
I believe so, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Your Honor, objection.
That's sustained.
Judge, I
Ladies
think
and
you should
gentlemen,
witness.
if you can step out in the hallway just for a moment.
All rise for the jury.
You're on it, Nadia. All right, everyone, please be seated. Defense, you may continue.
Officer Franco, you had an opportunity to review the body worn camera during break. Didn't you?
Briefly, ma'am.
And we discovered that it is not your body worn camera that I was showing you earlier.
The one that you showed me was not mine.
And that's actually Officer Mark Garza's body worn camera,
Detective, ma'am.
Detective Mark Garza. And so during direct examination, you said that you recognized my client from January of this year. Isn't that accurate?
Yes,
You recognized him in the dark at 11 p.m. at night?
yes, I was also shown a picture of him in the mugshot when we ran the warrant, ma'am.
Okay, so do you recognize him from January of this year, or do you recognize him from the photo?
It was the same day, ma'am. Yes,
Okay, so you recognize him from in the dark and in the photo,
yes, ma'am. I work in the dark, so I identify people in the dark. Yes, ma'am.
okay? From 2 houses away.
No, I was right next to him.
Well, officer, your report says that when you saw him, you were 2 houses away.
No, that's not what it says, ma'am. It says that that he was located 2 houses away.
So if he's located 2 houses away, you're also 2 houses away from him. Isn't that accurate?
No,
So you're closer to him than he is to you?
I pulled up right next to him to make contact with him, as I stated in the report.
Okay, so at what point is he 2 houses away?
He was 2 houses away from the incident location, ma'am.
2 houses away from the incident location. Okay. And so how far away is he when you see him?
I pulled up right next to him
2 feet, 3 feet?
without hitting him with my car, ma'am.
How far, sir?
He was by the front passenger window, ma'am. So
The
I
front
don't know how
passenger.
far that is. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, front passenger window?
He was located from my front side passenger window.
And so he's in the street at this point,
Yes,
okay? And he's dressed in all black,
yes.
and you remember all that from January of 2023?
Review my body camera, yes, ma'am.
Oh, you did review your body worn camera.
Like I said briefly, ma'am.
I have no further questions, we pass.
State.
Just a moment of the court's time, Your Honor. Nothing further from the state, Your Honor, with this witness.
All right, is this witness excused?
For this- for the state, Your Honor, yes.
Subject to recall judgment.
All right. Just make sure that you're available if anyone needs you to come back. All right, thank you. You may step down. State, call your next witness.
One more moment of the court's time, Your Honor.
And so Judge, we hadn't invoked the rule prior, and we'd like to invoke the rule.
All right, the rule will be invoked.
Additionally, we would request that the comments on the YouTube be turned off, because we do believe it's a violation of the rule and have concerns that witnesses would be able to comment.
Witnesses they know what the rule is. The court has, once the witnesses come back, the court, of course, cannot place or give witnesses who've already testified the rule, because neither the defense nor the state invoked the rule before they testified. So with regards to the 911 custodian, I do not have the ability to bring her back unless she's here, and I will invoke the rule for her. With regards to the officer who just testified, nobody asked that the rule be invoked with him. If you wish to bring that officer back, is he still here? I'll let him know he's under the rule.
Judge, that's not my concern. My concern
Please
is,
have a seat. State, call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the state will call Miss Bridget Cavazos.
All right, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. Please make sure that you keep your voice up so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and the court reporter can hear. All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
Bridget Cavazos,
All right, and could you spell your last name, please?
Cavazos.
All right. State.
Ms. Cavazos, how are you today?
I'm good.
And do you know why you're here today?
Yes.
I want to start by talking about January 9th. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Where were you on January 9th?
I'm at home.
And where do you live?
The address or 202 Estate Drive.
And where is that address? I apologize. Allow me to rephrase.
Uh-huh.
Who were you with at home?
My sister-in-law,
And who is your sister-in-law?
Sabrina Olivares.
And was anybody else at the house with you and your sister-in-law Sabrina?
Yes.
Who was at the house?
Her kids, my daughter, and Todd as well.
And what was the last name you said?
Oh, I said Todd.
Is that individual Todd in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please identify that individual by an article of clothing?
I'm sorry, by what?
Can you please identify that individual by an article of clothing?
Oh, I guess the suit jacket that he's wearing.
Your Honor, may the record please reflect that the witness has correctly identified the defendant. Now, ma'am, what were you doing at your house that day, night, morning? Take us to the scene. What time of day was it?
It was nighttime. I don't recall the exact time.
And what happened first?
I was in the room with my daughter
And ma'am, you were in what room with your daughter?
in Sabrina's room.
You were in Sabrina's.
Yes.
And where was everybody else?
Sabrina was in there. Todd was in there as well. My daughter, and then the kids were in their rooms.
And what happened next?
My daughter needed to use the restroom, so I took her to the restroom.
Did you leave the room?
No, the restroom is inside her room as well.
What's inside?
Yes.
And ma'am, what happened after that?
When I came out of the restroom, Sabrina had said for us to go to the living room.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
So you can't say what people said exactly, but again, we're going to continue to walk with what you observed.
Okay.
So what, after taking your daughter to the restroom,
Mhm.
what happened next?
We went to the living room.
Who is we?
Me and Sabrina, my daughter.
Did Todd go as well?
He followed.
And what happened next?
I was sitting on the couch with my daughter and they started arguing,
Who started arguing?
Sabrina and Todd.
What was the general demeanor or body language from both of them that you observed?
Sabrina was calm. He was more like aggressive towards her.
And after the arguing, what happened next?
I know he had her like against the wall in the living room.
And what happened after that?
He hit her.
How did he hit her?
He slapped her in the face.
After he held her against the wall and slapped her in the face, what happened next?
He spit on her face.
And Ms. Cavazos, after that, what did you observe?
The argument went from the living room to the dining room.
And in the dining room, what happened?
He tried to hit her again. But, no.
After you went to the dining room, what happened next?
They were arguing and he was wearing a gold necklace that Sabrina had ripped out, like took away, and it landed on the floor.
When did she rip it off?
When they were arguing.
Before or after you hit her?
It was after. After he tried to hit her.
Now, Ms. Cavazos, after this happened, did you or Sabrina call 911?
Yes, she did.
How long after?
It was right after.
Where did you go to call 911? Or where did she go?
She went to her room
Where was Todd at this time?
in the in the dining room.
And 5-10 minutes after that, who was all in the house?
Objection, lady.
Overruled.
5-10 minutes after that, after the 911 phone call took place,
Mhm.
who was in the house?
It was still just us.
You were there when the police arrived, correct?
Yes.
Was Todd there?
No,
To your knowledge, where was Todd?
he took off running.
Just a moment of the court's time, Your Honor. Ms. Cavazos, how long after the altercation took place did it take? How long after that did it take for 911? Allow me to rephrase. Ms. Cavazos, how long after the incident took place did it take for officers to arrive on scene?
They were fairly quick, so maybe like 10 minutes.
I apologize. Can you say that one more time?
Maybe like 10 minutes.
And with respect to the physical altercation, who started it? Who hit who first?
Todd.
Now, ma'am, we're going to transition to January 17th.
Mhm.
Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Now, on January 17th,
Mhm.
where were you?
I was in the house in the living room.
The same house?
Yes.
And who else was in the house that night?
Sabrina, my daughter, the kids, and also Todd.
The same individuals from
Yes.
the night.
Mhm.
And what time did you get to the house that night?
I know it was nighttime. I don't remember the exact time.
It was nighttime. Where do you actually sleep in the house?
In the living room. Yes.
Did you have any contact with Sabrina on the 17th?
During the night, no.
During the night now?
Mm-mm.
What happened when you got home then?
I put my daughter to bed and I was laying down watching TV on my phone.
And again, just for clarity, you're in the living room. Where was Sabrina at this time?
In her room.
Where was Todd at this time?
In her room also.
And did you observe or hear anything that night?
No.
Where were you when you woke up the next morning?
In the living room.
And did you make contact with Todd?
No,
Did you see Todd?
no,
Did you make contact with Sabrina?
yes.
And what was her general demeanor or state of mind?
She was kind of like all over the place. She was,
And what do you mean by all over the place?
she was more scared and also angry.
Why was she scared and angry, to the best of your knowledge?
Objection, speculation.
That will be sustained.
Without going into what she said, did she tell you why she was scared or angry?
Objection calls for hearsay.
That'll be overruled. You can answer yes or no to that question.
Yes.
Just a moment of the court's time. With respect to the 17th, Ms. Cavazos. That morning when you woke up, did officers arrive on scene that day?
Yes,
Who called 911?
Sabrina.
Ms. Cavazos, when officers arrived on scene for January 17th, who was in the house?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
So
You can
ma'am, you're allowed to
Oh, okay. I believe it was everybody that was there also on the night.
Was Todd there?
No,
Do you have any knowledge of where he was?
no,
Had you seen him at all that morning?
no.
Your Honor, the state passes this witness.
All right, defense.
Now, Bridget, you're Sabrina's sister-in-law,
Yes.
and who's the family relationship?
Her brother.
Her brother.
Yes.
And how long have you and Sabrina lived together?
Almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yes.
So just a few months prior to the incident, you moved in?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about the layout of your house. Judge, may I use the well?
Yes.
So if this is the front door to the house,
Mhm.
I'm walking into the front door,
Yes.
how do I get to the living room?
You walk all the way straight.
I walk straight in and this is the living room, right?
No.
I keep walking down the hall?
Yes.
Okay, how many steps do you think?
Maybe like 10 to 15,
10
because
to
you got to
15.
walk to the dining room as well.
Okay.
Because you have to walk to the dining room as well to get to the living room.
Okay, so you walk through the dining room first?
Yes.
And then you get to the living room?
Yes.
And when I walk straight in, am I in the dining room?
No.
It's
You're
just
in
a hallway?
a hallway. Yes.
And so how many steps to the dining room?
Like 5 or 6.
So I walk 5 or 6 steps straight,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm in the dining room.
Yes.
And then I walk through the dining room
Mm-hmm.
and through a doorway, right?
Yes.
And then I get to the living room.
Yes.
And so how do I get to Sabrina's bedroom?
If you're coming from the front door to the living room,
Which way is easier?
either way, I believe the front door.
The front door, okay. So if I'm in the front door,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do to get to the bedroom?
You walk like 2 or 3 steps forward, and then you take a right to another hallway, and
Okay.
then
So I walk 2 or 3 steps forward and then I take a right,
mm-hmm.
and then how many steps do I take?
Like 4, because then you gotta take the corner, and her bedroom's around the corner.
So I take 4 steps forward
Uh-huh.
and then I turn the corner to the left,
To the right.
to the right,
And then her bedroom's right there.
And then her bedroom's right here.
Yes, the door.
And so, can you go to her bedroom, from her bedroom to the dining room without going through the same hallway?
No.
Okay. Can you go from her bedroom to the living room without going through the same hallway?
No.
So it's fair to say that that hallway accesses everything in the house,
Uh-huh. All the bedrooms, yes.
access all the bedrooms.
Yes.
Okay, and then it also accesses the living room and the dining room.
Mm-hmm.
There's, would you describe it as a T shape hallway,
No, it's more like a little L.
an L shape?
Yeah.
And so, on the first offense day, January 9th. On January 9th, where were you when the incident took place?
We were in the living room.
You were in the living room.
Yes.
So I'm walking straight forward about 15 steps and I'm in the living room.
Uh-huh.
And in the living room, where's the couch?
There was multiple couches
Where's the couch you were sitting?
right against the wall. So when you walk in, it's like right in front, like but against the wall.
So if the front door is behind me,
Uh-huh.
is the couch on the wall opposite me?
Yes.
Opposite me.
Yes.
And it faces towards the front door.
Yes.
Okay, so you're sitting on the couch with your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And you say the altercation starts from the living room.
Yes.
Okay, where's Todd standing?
They were both standing up like by the doorway.
By the doorway that leads.
It was like in between the doorway and the back door. They were like right there.
The doorway that leads to the dining room?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk back through the living room, right? Because
Mhm.
you're on the opposite wall. I'm walking back through the living room. I'm in the dining room. Are they fully in the dining room when the altercation starts? Or are they in the living room?
No, they're in the living room.
They're in the living room.
Yes.
Towards the door, towards the door to the dining room,
Yes, they're against the wall.
against the wall.
Yeah.
Which wall are they against?
And when you walk through the dining room, they're on the left side.
But you said I'm still in the living room.
Yes, you're still, it's like they're not outside of the living room. They were in the living room just where the doorway's at, but not out of the doorway.
Right, but you said that they're against the wall. So are they against the wall that faces towards the living room?
Yes,
Are they on the wall that is to the left of the dining room door?
yes,
Okay, so they're on this wall
yeah.
right here. And so
Mhm.
Sabrina's back is to the wall
Yes,
and you're facing them with your daughter.
yes.
Okay, and you say the first thing that happens is Todd's holding her up against the wall.
Hmm.
And then you say the second thing that happens is that then Todd slaps her.
Yes,
Which hand did he slap her with?
his right, I
His
believe.
right hand.
Mhm.
Okay. So he slaps her
Hmm.
and then after that, what happens?
They were arguing a little bit more, and then that's when he spits in her face.
Then he spits on her face.
Mhm.
Okay, and then what happens after that?
They continue arguing, and then
Okay.
he spit again in her face.
Are they still in the living room? or this one?
Yes, and then they moved to the dining room.
Okay, so then they move to the dining room.
Mhm.
And now where are they in the dining room? In the doorway?
Yes, but when you walk the doors, they're on the left side, so like where the wall's at, but where the back doors, where the side doors at too.
So can you see them still?
Yes,
And so
because I wasn't sitting down, I was standing up.
you were standing up, you got off the couch. to
Yes.
stand up.
Hmm.
Okay, so if we're standing in the living room, which wall are they on? Are they on the wall facing the doorway closest to the front door?
Hmm. Yes,
So you're all the way standing over here by this couch. And they're all the way on the dining room wall closest to the front door.
yes,
And that's where Sabrina yanks the chain off his neck.
his neck, yes,
And the one that she had bought for him,
yes.
she throws it on the ground.
Hmm.
And then what happens after that?
That's her, they started arguing a little bit, and then her oldest son came out of the room, and then she went to her room.
And then she went to her room.
Yes,
And is that where she placed the 911 call?
yes,
And while she's placing the 911 call, is her door locked?
yes,
And is Todd asking to leave?
yes.
But he's asking for his things back first,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
And if you could just answer yes or no.
Yes.
And give me just a moment, I lost my train of thought. Oh, Todd's asking for his things back, but Sabrina won't give them back, is that accurate?
Objection, hearsay?
That will be overruled. You can answer if you know, you're just not allowed to say what anyone said.
Yes.
Yes, Sabrina won't give them back.
Hmm.
Because she's locked in a room and she's calling 911.
Yes,
And where are her 6 kids while she is in her room?
they're in their rooms.
They're in their room.
Besides her oldest son was out there with me and Todd.
Okay, so her oldest son is out in the living room with you and Todd.
It was more like in the hallway.
Todd's in the hallway.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, Todd's in the hallway, you're in the living room,
No, I'm in the dining room.
and you're in the dining room.
Yes.
When did you move from the living room to the dining room?
When her oldest son came out.
And so Todd's standing in the hallway trying to get his things back from Sabrina.
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes,
And that hallway is the hallway that accesses all the kids' rooms.
yes,
And she places the 911 call, and then at some point Todd takes off.
yes.
And so you knew Sabrina had called the police about the January 9th incident, correct?
Yes,
And so then January 17th, Todd shows up again, right?
yes.
But the police weren't called the minute he showed up?
No,
No. When did you discover Todd had been to the house that evening on January 17th?
the day after in the morning.
The day after in the morning?
Yes,
Would it surprise you if you previously told police officers that you actually went into the bedroom?
Objection relevance as to whether or not they were surprised.
All right, that'll be overruled.
Would it surprise you that you actually went into the bedroom with Todd and Sabrina and saw them
on what date?
January 17th?
No.
It wouldn't surprise you.
I mean, I don't understand the question.
Is it possible that you actually did see Sabrina and Todd in the bedroom and you just don't remember?
I mean, yeah, it's possible.
And so you find out that Todd had been to the house the next day.
Mhm.
That's what you said?
Yes,
And that's when police arrived at 7 PM that evening. Isn't that accurate?
yes,
And you didn't hear any altercation between Todd and Sabrina on the 17th?
No.
And you didn't see Todd leave,
no,
but don't you have to go through the living room to get out the door?
no, because there's the front door.
There's a front door.
Yeah,
Okay.
she has 3 different doors. There's the front door, the side door, and the back door.
The front door, the side door, and the back door. So let's go through that really quick. So Sabrina's bedroom's over here, right? That's what we established,
Mhm.
directly in front of the witness. stand.
Yes,
And so walk me to the back door
you have to walk forward like 2 steps and then turn the corner
and turn the corner to the left or right.
to the right. No, to the left, sorry. And then you walk forward
How many steps?
like 5. And then you turn to your right and then you walk straight down.
And I walk straight out.
Yeah.
And so when I'm turning to my right from walking 5 steps, isn't it the front door to my left
Yes,
and the living room is to my left?
no, living room is to your right.
Well, I'm sorry, the living room is to my right.
Yeah.
So when I'm walking towards, do you call this the back door?
Yes, the
When
back
I
door.
walk, when I walk 5 steps towards the back door, I'm walking through the living room.
Yes, the dining room and then the living room.
And so if Todd had left this way, you would have seen it. correct?
Yes. hmm
If you can just break this one done, we're both being very bad about it, but we can't talk over each other.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's the back door. Now tell me about the side door. From Sabrina's bedroom to the side door, how do I get out?
The same way. So you just walk forward, turn to your right, and then you walk down the hall.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk forward 2 steps left
Uh-huh.
and then turn to my left.
Uh-huh.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
And I walk forward 5 steps
Uh-huh. Yes.
and then which way am I turning?
To the right as well. And then the back door, the side door is in the living room, I mean, the dining room.
The side door is in the dining room.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought the dining room was behind,
No, that's the front door.
right? And you said this hallway was connected to both the dining room and. the
Oh,
living room.
yeah, okay. I thought we had made it to the little hallway to where the front door was at.
I'm sorry, are there 2 separate hallways?
No, it's just one.
Okay, so walk me through it again. I'm in the bedroom. I'm gonna walk forward 2 steps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a left.
Yes.
I'm gonna walk forward 5 steps.
Uh-huh.
When I walk forward 5 steps, is the front door to my left?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you turn to your right and it's the dining room.
And I turn to right, and it's the dining room.
Yes.
To the living room is also to my left.
No, to the right.
Everything is to my right.
Yes. The only thing to your left is the front door
The only thing to
and
the
her
left-
oldest son's bedroom.
Excuse me, I need one at a time.
Sorry.
The only thing to my left is the front door
And a bedroom.
and the bedroom. So the only way Todd would have been able to leave without you seeing it through the front door,
Yes.
is that typically the way that people come in and out of your house?
No,
They come in and out through the side door. Is
to the
that
back
accurate?
door.
Through the back.
Yes.
Was there any evidence that Todd had broken into the house that evening?
Objection calls for a conclusion.
Sustained.
Did you have any information that Todd accessed the house illegally that day?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Did Todd break through the front door?
Objection, speculation.
You can answer that if you know.
I don't know.
Was the lock broken?
No,
So how would he have broken through the front door if the lock wasn't broken?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Did Todd break through the side door?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Did Todd break through the back door?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Judge, I think this witness would be able to know whether or not someone broke into her own house.
I've made my ruling.
I understand. When did Bridget call 911 after the January 17th? I'm sorry, when did Sabrina call 911 after the January 17th incident?
Mm, I don't remember.
Well, during direct examination, the state asked you about a 911 call. And they
Uh-huh.
asked you if you knew she'd made a 911 call.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sorry, was that a
She,
yes?
yes,
And you were very clear and you said, yes, she had made a 911 call
yes.
because you remembered that.
Mhm. I don't remember exactly what time, but she did.
Was it early in the morning?
No,
It was late in the evening. Is that accurate?
yes.
Were you aware that Bear County Sheriff's Office were trying to subpoena you to testify today?
Yes.
And you didn't respond to that subpoena, did you?
I had just got it yesterday.
You just got it yesterday.
Yes.
So you weren't aware that back in August, Bear County Sheriff's Office attempted to come to your home to subpoena you to appear in this case?
No.
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Now, do you still live with Sabrina?
No, I don't.
At the moment, you don't live with
No.
her? Where do you, live?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
When did you move out?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Probably like a month ago.
Because there were a lot of incidents at that house at 202 Estate. Is that accurate?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
How many times have you called the police to the residents of 202 Estate in the last year?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
And so on the night of January 17th, you didn't hear any screaming, any confrontations?
No.
No further questions, Judge, we pass the witness.
State.
State has nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Not subject to recall for the statement.
Subject to recall, Judge.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. You're not allowed to watch anything in regards to this case. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, make yourself available because the state or the defense may call you back.
Okay.
All right, you may step down. State, call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state will call the complainant in this case,
Right.
Sabrina Olivares.
I expect witness to maybe be lengthy. Are we gonna take a break in the middle of?
No, we're not.
Okay.
And ladies and gentlemen, as previously stated, if we go over, you will still have your lunch break. I don't know if you'll take a seat right here, please. Right here. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. I'm going to need you to make sure that you keep your voice up
Mhm.
so that the court reporter can hear and so that the jurors can hear.
Okay.
All right, if you'll state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Sabrina Olivares, Sabrina.
All right,
O
sorry, continue.
Olivares.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Olivares, how are you today?
I'm well.
And do you know why you're here today?
For the trial.
Now, ma'am, we're gonna break things up. I want to first talk about January 9th. Ma'am, where were you on January 9th, 2023?
I was at home.
And where do you live?
My address,
Hmm.
202 Estate Drive, San Antonio, Texas, 78220.
Is that in Bear County, Texas?
Yes.
And when you were at home, who was at home with you?
My kids, my sister-in-law Bridget, and her daughter,
Is anybody else there?
Todd.
And what is your relationship to Todd?
Then he was a boyfriend.
And for total clarity, is that individual in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you please identify that individual by an article of clothing?
The khaki pants and the white shirt, I think. Yeah.
Your Honor, may the record please reflect that the complainant has correctly identified the defendant. Now, where were you inside the house in terms of a room on January 9th?
First I was in my bedroom. Me, him, Bridget, and her daughter. They ended up going to. You just want to know which room?
What room were you in?
The first room was my bedroom.
And who was in the bedroom with you?
Me, Todd, me, the little girl, Bridget's daughter.
And what happened next?
Me, Bridget, and Mia. I'm sorry, that's the little girl's name. We ended up going to the living room. I told her to come with me to the living room.
And so who all was in the living room at this time?
It was us three. And then Todd came.
And when Todd came into the room, what happened next?
He was just stating he was cursing and he spit in my face twice, slapped me, tried to get to my room.
We'll just break that down, man.
Thank you.
So he gets to the room, the living room, and he spit in your face. Do you have, why would he do that?
I have no clue. 32 years of my life, never been spit on.
And it did, after he spit in your face, what happened next?
I stood there like in shock. Like I ain't never had anyone spit in my face before.
And after he spit in your face, what did he then do next to you?
He spit again and
after he spit-
slapped.
I apologize. After he spit in your face for a second time, what also did he do?
Then slapped me.
Anything else?
And then I moved my arm. And then I reached for, he was wearing like a necklace. I just reached for it to like, I don't know, I was just trying to get away. And then my son ended up coming out
In what room was he in originally?
in his room, in the front room. He didn't know anything was going on.
And after you grabbed the necklace and whatnot, where did you go after that?
My son ended up coming in between us and he didn't see anything though. And then I went to my room and he was trying to go to my room and my son wouldn't let him come to my room.
And once you were in your room, what did you do next?
I made the phone call.
Your Honor, may the state publish the 911 call from January 9th to the jury?
Can I have parties approach?
Apologies, Your Honor, we're just trying to administratively make sure that I do this properly. Now, ma'am, we're gonna play the 911 phone call that you made the night of January 9th. And I'll ask you some questions about it after we play it.
I don't know if that one, please call your free in it.
Okay. This is your state driver. I was on the phone with somebody, they called me hung up.
Who's your state, you said?
It's state, ESTATE Drive. San Antonio, Texas, 78220.
Yeah, it's gonna put it over there.
Todd Dotson, Dodson, I mean, accident, I mean,
Police? Okay,
yes.
what is he doing?
What?
What did Todd do? What's going on?
He hit me on my face, and he's been on me. This isn't the first time either. I've had knocks all over my head, or he busted my dick. Right now, I want him out now.
Does he have any weapons at all?
Okay.
How much did man?
To bring all the waters, I don't know. They don't want to be.
You're coming from a 727770236?
Yes.
All right, you know Todd,
What?
no, right now. You know the date of investigation?
June 10th, 91.
All right, I said that I'll send that out that way, to be there shortly, okay?
After the 911 phone call was placed, where were you
I was in my bedroom.
and where was Todd?
He was trying to get in my bedroom.
Did he?
No, my son was blocking him. That's why you heard me say, because they kept knocking on the door. And
Objection, non-responsive.
Overruled.
so that's basically what was going on.
From, thank you, ma'am. Now, from the time that you called 911, the call we heard, how much time elapsed before officers arrived on scene?
They came pretty quick. It was maybe like less than 5 minutes.
And when they arrived on scene, who all was still in the house?
It was me, the kids.
Allow me to rephrase, ma'am. Where was Todd when the police arrived?
He was, I don't know exactly where he was. I know he was outside of my room.
Objection, speculation.
All right, that'll be sustained.
Who was in the house with you at the time that police arrived?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
I can
You may answer.
answer. It was me, my kids, Bridget, her daughter, and Todd.
I just want to clarify. I asked when officers arrived. Was Todd in the living room with y'all?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
You may answer.
Was he in the living room?
Was he with you when officers arrived?
Objection leading.
I was
Overruled.
I
You can
was in my
answer.
bedroom. Thank you.
When you came out of your bedroom, was Todd still there?
He already took off running.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, these are already in evidence, but this is what's been marked as states exhibits 4, 5, 6, and 7. I want to take just a quick moment to just look at these real quick. Now, ma'am, do those photos accurately reflect your state and condition that day?
Yes.
When he slapped you in the face, did you feel pain?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, we're gonna pivot and talk about the 17th. Where were you on January 17th, 2023?
At home.
And who was also at home?
The kids, Bridget and Todd.
And with respect to the room you were in, what room were you in?
My bedroom,
And what room was Bridget in?
the living room,
And where was Todd?
my bedroom.
How did Todd come about being in your bedroom?
Can you rephrase that? Just ask me again.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to speak up.
Oh, just ask me again. I'm sorry.
How did Todd get into your bedroom?
He just walked in.
And when he walked in, what happened next?
17. It was just altercation.
Well, you said it was an altercation. What did he say to you?
Like it was just like back and forth.
Do you remember what he was saying?
I don't.
Do you remember did anything happen to you that night?
Yeah, where he hit me.
So there was an altercation and he hit you. Walk me through what happened directly after the initial altercation verbally. What happened next?
Oh. What happened next was, it was just like just abuse, like physical abuse where he hits me and stuff.
And with respect to the night of the 17th, what did he do to you?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
What was that?
With respect to just the night of January 17th, what did he do to you?
Besides hitting me
How did he hit you?
with closed fists,
Other than hitting you with a closed fist, what else happened?
where um basically didn't want to do things.
You didn't want to do what things?
Objection, I think we need an approach.
All right, you all can approach.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can be on a lunch break at this point. And we will be back at 1:30. The reason why we're going to be back at 1:30 is because I do have a couple of things that I need to take care of that's on my docket. And I don't know if this is your first time being downtown or not, but sometimes it's hard to find a place to eat. But there's a place to eat in the basement, that's the cafeteria. And then if you walk anywhere on Houston Street, where the chapel is, if you go across the street from the chapel, I think there's a Subway and other sandwich shops are along the way. And then, of course, as you go along the river, things get more pricey, but sometimes they do have lunch prices. So that'll give you a chance to walk around, since we'll be back at 1:30. You have heard some evidence in this case. You are not allowed to do any research. You are not allowed to look at anything. You're not allowed to talk to anybody about anything that you've heard today, including each other. You're not allowed to watch any social media. Does everyone understand?
Yeah.
Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside this courtroom and nowhere else. Make sure that you keep your badges visible, because when you're on your lunch break, usually attorneys are on lunch break. Sometimes they're talking about their cases or talking about other cases. They could be talking about this case. But if they see you with your badges on, they'll know that you're a juror and they won't talk about any case around you, all right? So when we start at 1:30, Just make sure you meet in the jury room, again, Deputy Law will bring you in. All right, everyone, please rise. So
I misunderstand. Ask them as if we had continued on.